Hi, Lee Phillips here. Yeah, I'm still a liar. I mean an attorney. And I do a lot with trusts. What I want to do now is talk to you about when a living revocable trust ends or dies or whatever you want to say. First of all, it's a revocable trust. That means that you can revoke it at any time. You just get rid of it. You say, I'm done. Now, what you're going to have to do, though, is go in and unwind it if you've actually used your living revocable trust. And you're basically going to do the reverse of what you do when you use a living revocable trust. So you need to get the ebook. It's free, How to Use a Living Revocable Trust. And you can just get that by emailing info@legalees, legalees.com. And in the subject line, just put free ebook using a living revocable trust or whatever you want to put in there. But they need to know what it is, okay? Any rate, it's a revocable trust, and supposedly you've put your assets into the trust. Your bank account and your brokerage account, and you've maybe even put your pieces of property into the trust. You're going to have to unwind that, go down to the bank, reverse it, and put it back in your own name, and go down and make out a new deed and put it from the trust back into your name. So you've got to reverse this whole thing. A lot of people, not many people I should say, actually go in and revoke their living revocable trust, because once you understand what it is, it's really pretty cool. And if you use it the way the ebook teaches you how, then your family's going to avoid probate, everything's going to go smooth, it'll be pretty cool. The question is, okay, I have my living revocable trust, I die. What happens? Well, when you die, you're dead. Well, that was brilliant. You are going to have your trust instantly become an irrevocable trust. And I have another YouTube on how to do when a trust becomes irrevocable. So check out that YouTube, and don't forget to subscribe, okay? But at any rate, the trust becomes irrevocable. That means it becomes a totally different animal. It is independent of you now. It has its own legal standing. It can sue. It can be sued. It pays taxes. You have to get a tax ID number for it. Now, if it was just your living revocable trust and you undid it or revoked it, you probably didn't have to do anything with the IRS. You should have just been filing your 1040 form, claiming all of the income from the living revocable trust like it was yours. Now, though, we have a tax ID number, an EIN. And so you're going to file taxes every year, 1041. Make sure that you clean it out. We've got another YouTube on how to tax an irrevocable trust or how it's taxed. Make sure you clean it out, but this trust is going to go along. And the way you clean it out is you distribute the income, the increase, to the beneficiaries. You might actually not even give them the money, but they at least need to get a K-1 and claim it as their income. Otherwise, big tax. Don't go into that now. This trust, though, after you die, it's irrevocable. It has its own legs, stands on its own, and it's going to, I'm going to say, operate your estate. Now, if you've got rental properties, it could rent those rental properties for 30 years and just spin off income to the beneficiaries, the kids. And that's kind of cool. But at some point, this trust is going to be emptied. And when all of the assets are gone from the trust, they've all been distributed to the beneficiaries, then the trust is going to die because there's nothing in it. There's no use to having it. And at that point, it has to file a final 1041, tell the IRS, sayonara, and give up on the trust. The trust is now dead, or it has ended. You do have to end the trust, though. These living revocable trusts cannot go on in what we call perpetuity. They can't go on forever. And the law basically says they have to die within 21 years after the death of the last guy in being, living, when the trust becomes irrevocable. So what we do on the day you die, we take a picture of all of the possible beneficiaries, the kids, the grandkids, the great-grandkids, everybody. And you can imagine this. You don't take a real picture, okay? But you take a picture of them, and then as they die, you just X out the face on the piece of paper, the picture. And when the last one of those guys, life in existence, when it becomes irrevocable, when the last one of those guys dies by law, the trust has to end 21 years later. No longer than that. Of course, it can end any time, but no longer than that. So your trust will actually have a clause that talks about this perpetuity, okay? And so it could go on for a long time. It's like a little company. It manages the assets and everything else, and it spends off the taxes and pays the benefits out, and everybody gets their dividend. These aren't called dividends, and it's not a company, but you can think of it that way, okay? And all the trust lawyers just called me a heretic, but you can think of it that way. The trust ends, it dies, it's gone, file the final tax return, and you're through. This is Lee Phillips talking about when a living revocable trust ends.